So picture this. It's 2017, and there's this 20-year-old rookie. She's literally hiding behind her long blonde hair, just crying in a locker room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, she's begging to just pack her bags and go back home to Australia. But then you fast forward to January 6, 2025.
Right, the Netflix premiere.
Exactly, the monumental Raw Netflix premiere. And that exact same woman is standing right in the center of the ring, hoisting the women's world title over her head. She is, without a doubt, the most terrifying, dominant force in sports entertainment right now.
It's a pretty incredible contrast, honestly.
It really is. So today, we are taking a deep dive into a huge stack of fascinating sources. We've got WWE superstar profiles, match databases, international news coverage, all to explore the meteoric rise of Rhea Ripley.
Which is just a fascinating trajectory to look at.
Right. And for you listening, the mission for this deep dive isn't just to, list off her highlight reel or talk about signature moves like the Riptide. We want to actually trace the psychological and physical evolution here. Like, how did that terrified, homesick rookie transform into a record-breaking Grand Slam and Triple Crown champion?
And, we should probably add some context to that level of success, right? Because being a Grand Slam and Triple Crown champion in WWE, it's not just about having one good run.
Right. You can't just get lucky once.
Exactly. You have to win the Raw Women's Championship, the SmackDown Women's Championship, the NXT Women's Championship, and the Women's Tag Team titles.
That's literally everything.
Yeah, it's conquering every single brand at every division they have. It requires this sustained, adaptable dominance that very, very few performers ever actually achieve.
And the most compelling part of her story, at least for me, is that this dominance didn't come from, like, a magical new wrestling hold or, a sudden push from management.
No, not at all.
It's almost like a superhero origin story, but instead of a radioactive spider bite, her superpower was unlocked through this really radical, unapologetic self-acceptance.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, so to understand the champion who's ruling the Netflix era today, we have to rewind to that 2017 version of her, because when you look at the footage from that inaugural Mae Young Classic...
Oh, it's wild. It doesn't even look like the same human being.
Not at all.
Yeah.
What did you make of that initial 2017 run when you were looking through the sources?
The contrast is just genuinely startling. I mean, when she arrived from Adelaide, South Australia for this 32-woman tournament, she had this fresh-faced, smiling demeanor, long flowing blonde hair.
Right, very traditional.
Exactly. She looked like the prototypical, traditional female wrestler from a decade prior.
Right.
But under the surface, the sources paint a picture of someone who was completely crumbling.
Yeah, just falling apart.
She was suffering from debilitating homesickness, for one. And then she was being bullied in the locker room, too. She felt completely worthless, and she was just terrified of making even the slightest mistake that might get her fired.
And the detail that really stuck with me from reading her interviews was the hair.
Oh, the hiding mechanism.
Yes. She admitted that she literally used her long blonde hair as a physical shield. Like when she felt shy or overwhelmed, she would just pull it forward over her face to block out the world.
It's heartbreaking, honestly.
It really is. And I mean, it completely challenges that pervasive myth we have about professional athletes and performers. We see them walk down the ramp with all the pyrotechnics firing off, and we just assume they possess this innate, impenetrable confidence.
Right. We assume they're just born ready for the spotlight.
Exactly. But reading this, I kept thinking this goes way beyond standard new job jitters. It feels like a severe case of imposter syndrome. Like she was wearing this costume of what she thought a traditional wrestler was supposed to look like instead of just presenting who she actually was.
Well, I'd actually argue it was even more complex than standard imposter syndrome.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, imposter syndrome usually implies you don't believe you deserve the success you're currently having, right? But for Ripley in 2017, she wasn't having success.
Oh, that's a good point.
She was actively failing because that eager-to-please, smiling blonde mold she was trying to squeeze into it was entirely incongruous with her actual personality.
It was forced.
Completely forced. And in a highly political, high-pressure environment like WWE, if you're out there playing a character that you don't genuinely believe in, the camera picks up on that hesitation immediately. The fans see right through it.
Yeah, you can't fake that kind of authenticity.
Exactly. She was expending so much mental energy just trying to survive and fit in, she had nothing left for her actual in-ring performance.
Which brought her to that breaking point where she almost quit entirely. She almost left America. But she didn't pack her bags.
No, she didn't.
Instead, she had this quiet, completely internal moment of reflection. She basically gave herself a pep talk, reminded herself of all the sacrifices she made to get from Adelaide to the US, and decided she just had to toughen up.
Right.
But here's the thing about internal shifts, they're invisible. To make it real, especially in a heavily visual medium like sports entertainment, she needed an external declaration.
And she went for a massive one.
She really did, right before the 2018 Mae Young Classic. What happened there?
Well, she made a choice that altered the entire trajectory of her career. She took that long blonde hair she was using as a shield, and she chopped it off.
Just cut it right off.
Yeah. But it wasn't just the hair. She completely overhauled her entire look. New gear, dark makeup, studs, and she did it all in secret without telling anyone.
Okay, wait, stop right there. Because we really need to talk about the backstage politics of that. Changing your approved gear without telling management in an environment as tightly controlled as WWE.
Oh, it's an incredible risk.
For an unestablished rookie, that sounds like absolute career suicide. I mean, if upper management doesn't like it, you're done.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
WWE invests so heavily in the marketing and branding of their superstars. So when you walk into a situation with a completely unapproved aesthetic, you are betting your entire career on the hope that your new vision is better than theirs.
That takes some serious guts.
It really does. And when she showed up in 2018, people were stunned. But her attitude had completely shifted. Her response to the shocked reactions was literally just, the new me, get used to it.
Wow, get used to it. I love that.
Right. She traded all those bright colors for heavily studded black leather and this dark, intense makeup.
Yeah.
She basically stopped trying to hide her actual interests and fully embraced her passion for the supernatural and heavy metal music.
And that's when she officially adopts the moniker The Nightmare.
Yes, exactly.
And I love that the sources mention this was heavily inspired by the American heavy metal band Motionless in White, specifically their song Untouchable. She took this dark, creepy aesthetic she loved in her personal life and just weaponized it for the ring.
Which is brilliant.
But there's this wild irony here, don't you think? By leaning into this creepy, intimidating, almost villainous persona, she actually became infinitely more relatable to the audience.
Oh, absolutely.
You'd think a brooding nightmare character would push fans away, but they instantly connected with her. How does that psychological unburdening actually translate into literal championship gold in the ring?
Well, it comes down to the fact that audiences crave authenticity above all else.
Right?
Like, they might not personally relate to wearing spiked leather and heavy makeup, but they profoundly relate to the act of rebelling against expectations.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah, so when Ripley threw off that quote-unquote good girl costume, it wasn't just a gimmick, it was this massive psychological unburdening.
Wow.
And when you stop carrying the emotional baggage of trying to please everyone, your physical performance completely transformed.
You just let go.
Exactly. The hesitation in the ring vanished. She replaced that fear of being fired with this raw, aggressive, take-no-prisoners brutality.
And the championship gold followed almost immediately after that. I mean, we're talking historic milestones right out of the gate with this new aesthetic.
Oh, absolutely.
In October 2018, she competes in an 8-woman tournament for the newly created NXT UK brand. She tears through Shia Brookside, she takes out Dakota Kai, and in the finals, she defeats Toni Storm to become the inaugural NXT UK Women's Champion.
And the craziest part, she's only 21 years old.
Wait, really? Just 21?
Just 21. To this day, she remains the youngest person to ever hold that specific title. Now, a quick look at the record book shows she also holds the shortest recognized reign for that title at just 44 days.
Oh, interesting.
But that was purely a quirk of broadcasting tape delays at the time. The actual duration of the reign is completely beside the point. The statement had been made. She proved that leaning into her natural power was the blueprint for her success.
Let's talk about that natural power for a second, because there is a crucial physical component to this evolution, too.
Definitely.
The sources really highlight WWE Hall of Famer Beth Phoenix as a massive inspiration for Ripley during this period. For those who don't know, Beth Phoenix was known as the Glamazon. She was this powerhouse who didn't look like anyone else in her era.
She was incredible.
Yeah, and she helped Ripley realize that female wrestlers don't have to be slender or petite. So looking at the mechanics of her ring work, how crucial was that representation? How did dropping that petite expectation change her wrestling?
It fundamentally altered her entire moveset. Representation in sports is so vital because it gives an athlete permission to utilize their actual physiological gifts.
It makes total sense.
The industry standard for a long time pushed women toward a very specific, smaller mold, which meant a lot of high-flying, acrobatic, or evasion-based wrestling. But Rhea Ripley is 5'7" and naturally powerful.
She's strong.
Very strong. So once she saw someone like Beth Phoenix thriving, Ripley stopped trying to wrestle like a smaller competitor. She started utilizing heavy strikes, power bombs, and these dominant submission holds.
Right, like her finishing move, the riptide. She literally lifts her opponent entirely onto her shoulders and slams them down. Or the prism trap, which requires immense lower body and core strength to lock in.
Exactly.
She couldn't do those moves convincingly if she was still trying to shrink herself physically to fit a mold.
Precisely. She completely weaponized her frame. And that combination of her new psychological edge and her raw physical power set her up for one of the most grueling tests in the entire industry.
The Royal Rumble.
The 2023 Royal Rumble, to be exact.
Now, for you listening, if you aren't super familiar, the Royal Rumble is an absolute gauntlet. It's 30 women, timed intervals, throwing opponents over the top rope.
It's exhausting just to watch.
It really is. But I want to dig into the strategy here. In 2023, Rhea Ripley drew the #1 entry spot, meaning she has to start the match. So from a psychological standpoint, drawing #1 doesn't just mean you have to wrestle longer. It means you have to completely change your game plan.
Oh, it changes absolutely everything. If you enter a Rumble at, say, number 25, your strategy is explosive offense. You come in hot, hit your signature moves, and try to clear the ring.
Because everyone else is already tired.
Right. But if you enter at #1, you have to immediately shift into a survivalist mindset. You have to conserve energy, avoid the ropes at all costs, and strategically pick your spots for over an hour.
That sounds impossible.
It's incredibly difficult because you know that every 2 minutes, a fresh, fully rested opponent is marching down the ramp with the sole intention of physically throwing you out. It requires an insane amount of tactical discipline.
Just to put it in perspective for you listening, surviving the Rumble from the #1 spot is basically like trying to run a marathon on a bridge while a brand new person tries to physically throw you off the edge every 2 minutes.
That is a perfect analogy. And she executed it flawlessly. She survived the entire match, outlasting 29 other superstars.
Which is just mind-blowing.
And she won by eliminating Liv Morgan, who, incredibly, entered at #2 and also lasted the whole match. They were literally teetering on the ring apron, and Ripley eliminated her with a head scissor over the ropes.
A head scissor. The stamina required for that finish after an hour is staggering.
It really is. The official data shows Ripley lasted exactly 1 hour, 1 minute, and 8 seconds. That set a new record for the longest time spent in a women's Royal Rumble match.
Wow.
Now, to be fair, Bayley did edge out that record the very next year in 2024 at 1 hour and 3 minutes. But Ripley's 2023 performance remains an absolute masterclass in endurance.
And what makes that run so fascinating is how she managed to balance that energy conservation with terrifying bursts of speed. Because I was looking at the match logs, and there's this incredible detail.
Oh, with Chelsea Green.
Yes, right in the middle of this grueling endurance test, Chelsea Green makes a surprise return. She enters at #20, marches down the aisle, gets into the ring, and Ripley instantly throws her over the top rope in exactly 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
It's the record for the shortest time spent in a women's Rumble. To have the wherewithal to conserve energy for an hour, but still possess the explosive awareness to eliminate a fresh competitor in 5 seconds. It just really highlights her ring IQ.
It's a perfect encapsulation of the nightmare persona. She's methodical, but she's always dangerous. And winning that Rumble earned her the right to choose her WrestleMania 39 opponent.
Right, and she chose the SmackDown Women's Champion, Charlotte Flair, and she defeated her to capture the title.
It was a massive victory.
So she reached the absolute peak of the mountain. But in this industry, the moment you reach the top, you paint a massive target on your back. Everyone wants your spot.
Oh, absolutely. It's the most dangerous place to be.
Exactly. So structurally, if you're the champion, you need protection, which perfectly explains her next major career move, which was aligning herself with the Judgment Day faction.
Yeah, joining a faction when you hold the gold is a classic, highly effective strategy.
Definitely.
The Judgment Day was this devilishly dark, treacherous group initially founded by Edge and Damian Priest. But Ripley, fully leaning into her enforcer role, orchestrates this shocking coup.
The betrayal.
Right. The night after Hell in a Cell, she and Priest turn on their own leader, Edge, and bring in Finn Balor. And from there, she really establishes herself as the terrifying backbone of the group.
And it worked brilliantly for a while, with the Judgment Day running roughshod over Monday Night Raw. Ripley enjoyed this massive, completely dominant one-year reign as the women's world champion.
She was basically untouchable.
Until April 2024, when the reality of this highly physical business finally caught up with her. She didn't actually lose her title in a match. She was forced to relinquish it due to a severe injury sustained during a backstage ambush.
And that ambush was by Liv Morgan.
Right, Liv Morgan, which is just a devastating pivot. You survive the Rumble, you conquer WrestleMania, you rule the division for a year, and then a backstage attack forces you to hand over the belt.
It's a tough pill to swallow. She was sidelined for months. But, the true test of her legacy wasn't just rehabbing the physical injury. It was navigating the psychological warfare that awaited her when she finally returned right before SummerSlam in 2024.
Because the landscape had completely changed while she was gone. During her dominant championship run, Ripley had this very prominent, unconventional on-screen relationship with Dominic Mysterio Dirty Dom.
Right. They were a huge part of the show.
They were presented as this completely united, inseparable front. But at SummerSlam, Dominic pulls off one of the most brutal betrayals in recent memory. He turns his back on Ripley and aligns himself with Liv Morgan, the very woman who injured Ripley and took her title.
And from a narrative perspective, that betrayal was just a stroke of genius.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it. For years, Ripley had been operating as a villain. She was the one ambushing people. She was the one manipulating the rules with the Judgment Day. But by having Dominic, who is arguably the most booed man in the entire industry, betray her in such a cowardly way, the audience's sympathy instantly transferred to Ripley.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. I want to dig into that a bit, because a lot of performers, if they lose their title, get injured, their faction implodes, and their partner betrays them on a massive stage like SummerSlam.
Can be done.
Yeah, they fade into the background, they get lost in the shuffle. But she didn't. She adapted yet again. She forms the Terror Twins with Damian Priest, who had also been kicked out of the Judgment Day.
And they go on an absolute warpath.
A total warpath for revenge. So how did navigating these complex storylines and real injuries fundamentally change how the fans view her? Because she's in rarefied air now.
It finalized her transition from a villain to a beloved anti-hero. That's the key. The Terror Twins weren't asking the fans for sympathy. They weren't suddenly playing by the rules or acting like traditional smiling good guys.
They were still brutal.
Exactly. They still wore the spikes. They still embraced the darkness. But now their aggression was pointed at targets the audience desperately wanted to see get punished, namely Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan.
Right. They were pointing the weapon in the right direction.
Yes. It proved that Ripley's connection with the crowd wasn't dependent on a specific prop or a title build. It was entirely based on her sheer authentic presence.
And that resilience, that total refusal to be kept down or forced back into anyone's shadow, leads us right back to the beginning of our deep dive.
Full circle.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because on January 6, 2025, on the massive Raw Netflix premiere, she conquers the odds, vanquishes her rivals, and reclaims her women's world title on literally one of the biggest broadcasting stages in the history of the industry.
It really is one of the most complete, satisfying character arcs we've seen in modern sports entertainment. She didn't just survive the WWE machine, she bent it to her will.
And she did it by killing off the version of herself that she thought everyone else wanted. For you listening right now, the takeaway from Rhea Ripley's journey goes so far beyond the wrestling ring.
Absolutely.
It is a masterclass in the absolute necessity of authenticity. Taking off whatever quote-unquote costume you might be wearing to please your boss, your peers, or your industry, even if your true self is a bit dark, a bit unconventional, or rough around the edges, is the only way to unlock your full potential. You cannot run a marathon in someone else's shoes.
It's the difference between pretending to be a star and actually being undeniable.
Well said. But I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over, something that builds on this idea of the unconventional.
Okay, let's hear it.
If Rhea Ripley's massive global popularity was ignited by adopting this villainous, intimidating nightmare persona, a dark character that fans ultimately decided to cheer for with absolute passion, what does that say about us as modern audiences?
Oh, that's a great question.
Right. Like, why do we now instinctively root for the rebellious, flawed anti-hero over the traditional picture-perfect good guy? What is it about the shadows that we find so incredibly trustworthy? Think about that. Because sometimes the only way to become a superhero is to embrace the nightmare.